particularly with second and third sort of serial entrepreneurs who've kind of kicked out and decided they're now going to do that full time.
That business has gotten a little institutionalized, is the way I would like to think about it. They're not institutions, but it went from being one person writing a check to being a little bit of a fund, and maybe there's 2 or 3 people doing it together. So they're
you must compete with them, right?
We do.
In other words, there's a round going, and I mean, as an entrepreneur, I've raised angel rounds, and I thought about, well, I like this person and that person and this person and that person because they're good people, and if they're invested a little bit, skin in the game, then I can call them up and they'll help me.
Right.
But I actually, when I did my last angel round, it was 2005, and I imagine were I doing it now, I would be talking to another set of people who were kind of competing with first round and you and
exactly.
you know, Battelle and everybody kind of to do the same thing.
Right.
So what do you bring that they don't?
Well, we have the staying power that, you know, we've done 4 rounds in Twitter, we've done 5 rounds in Etsy, we've done 4 or 5 rounds in Zynga. You know, we just wrote, you know, a check that's 10 times the size of the first check we wrote in Foursquare. I mean, we can put significant amounts of capital into the companies we invest in, so that's different. And I think it's better that if you're going to take seed money and you have a choice from taking seed money from a real venture firm versus a seed firm, and the terms are the same and the dilution's the same, I would take it from a venture firm because we have, and others have the capacity to fund you again and again and again. Whereas, you know, if you don't quite get where you want to go with a seed fund, they may not be able to keep going.
That's a good point. Now, have you noticed pressure on the terms that you traditionally got because angels are willing to bring in terms that are not as, I guess the word would be onerous, or at least beneficial to the fund compared to the entrepreneur?
Well, we're not particularly term driven. I mean, we don't think that we're going to make our money based on the words in the deal. The things that matter are the price we pay, the amount of money we get to put in, the ownership we get, and ideally, you know, the relationship we have with the entrepreneur. We'd like to be one of the 1 or 2 influential investors that they really care about and listen to. And if we can get those things, then that's pretty much all we need.
So let me ask you about the other side of the business, which seems to also be going through a bit of a shift. When a company gets to the size of a Zynga, from a revenue standpoint, an employee standpoint, or a profile, I suppose I should say, the profile that Twitter now has, there seems to be a new set of funds or of capital, you know, VCs, investors, perhaps best exemplified by DST,
right?
Which is an investor in Zynga, so you're familiar with that process, but not in Twitter.
Right.
And I imagine that they may have called once or twice asking about investing in Twitter. It fits their profile.
Mm-hmm.
And Yuri Milner, the CEO of DST, has told me and others that, you know, he looks for just a few things. Doesn't really care about terms, just wants high growth and a certain revenue profile and a certain profile in the industry, and Twitter fits that. So is there a reason to take that money or not take that money? And does it depend on the company, or is it the management? Or
well, Twitter doesn't need the money. So specifically with respect to Twitter, they raised $100 million a year ago-ish, and you know, they already had a bunch of money when they raised that $100 million. So, you know, that raising money has not been an issue for Twitter for a while, and probably won't be an issue for Twitter for a while to come. So that's why there hasn't been anything. And whether it's DST or DAG or you know, IVP or TCV, I don't know why they all
have to have 3 letters. They all have to have 3 letters.
What do you say?
They all have to have USV.
We have a 3-letter acronym too. We started out as Union Square Ventures, and I always wanted to be called Union Square Ventures, but the market dictates what you get called.
Well, it's because it's shorter in Twitter. It's USV.
I know. We actually bought USV.com for that reason. Against my wishes, we decided to do it.
Was it hard for you at all when Foursquare was being courted to not make the phone call to Dennis and say, just buy it, just take the money?
What you're asking me is,
you had an exit that looked probably pretty good. That you know.
Well, so first of all, we wouldn't have made that much money, right? We had $500,000 invested in the company. So, and we're not investing our own money, we're investing other people's money. We get paid a piece of the other people's money. So in terms of my own personal financial interest, that would not have been the outcome that I would have wanted. But that's not really what the conversation was about. The conversation was about what was right for them. And the interesting thing was that Dennis didn't even care what was right for his pocketbook. What he cared about was what was right for the service. I mean, you know, the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs care about more than anything is their baby, right? They want their baby to be, you know, the best it could ever be, and so that's what was really on his mind. You know, what was the best thing to do so that 100 million people use Foursquare?
So what is the thing that's going to happen to make 100 million people use Foursquare? I think they crossed 2 million recently.
Time.
Time?
Time.
Nothing else?
I don't think so.
Did you read my post about how to improve Foursquare?
Well, that's what's going to happen over time.
Okay, that's a good point. Just to jump onto Twitter for a second there, what is it about the service, and I'm sure there's an answer here, perhaps someone from Twitter in the audience can answer if you don't think you have the right answer, that constantly breaks it?
It wasn't built right. Twitter was built kind of as a hack, and they didn't really architect it to scale. And then what happened was it started to scale, and they've never been able to catch up. Now, the recent problems that they had around the World Cup, I can't get into all of the details, but they've written a lot about, the engineering blogs written a lot about this.
Yep.
But Twitter's in the process of making a bunch of changes that are technical, and at the very same time that they were making those changes, they had this massive spike in usage related to the World Cup, and it was a very difficult 1-2 punch that they took. And so they had some downtime and some fail whales. But really, I think taking that sort of 30-day experience and setting it aside, if you went and looked at Pingdom or some other measure of reliability of Twitter over the course of the past 18 to 24 months, I think you'd see the service getting more and more reliable every day. So they are finally catching up. They have, I don't know if this is public information, but they have.
Just tell us anyway.
They have well north of 100 engineers, right? It's probably not 200, but it will be in the not too distant future. They have a large engineering organization run by a guy named Mike Abbott, who's fantastic, who was at Palm and helped build managed the team to build WebOS, and they got a great tech ops team, and they got a great product team. They have what it takes, and they know what it takes, but and they're getting there. But it wasn't built to scale. It was, you know, kind of just hacked together, and then they've been playing catch up ever since. And I think that's the big problem.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have.
I'd rather have that problem than build, you know, the most highly scalable system ever and not get one user.
Right. Staying on Twitter for just 1 second here. The local piece. I get asked for my location, you know, every so often from Twitter, and I always say sure, but I have yet to see the value of it. It hasn't delivered me any value for delivering my location to Twitter.
Yeah.
What's the value proposition going to be?
Well, I think that what Twitter is working on is a bunch of things around relevancy and signal to noise and filtering and all those kinds of things. None of that's shipped yet. Some of that is going to, well, all of it's eventually going to be in the platform as well, so that any third-party developer can use all of those tools as well. And location-based data is really, really useful metadata for all kinds of things like that. So if you're a venue owner, you might be interested in just seeing all the people who tweeted about your venue, right? Now that doesn't necessarily provide you value until that venue owner decides to reward you,
right?
You know,
Through Foursquare.
or through Twitter.
We have only a few minutes remaining, is that right? 5. We have 5 minutes remaining. I want to make sure there's time for questions and there's mics here. But